So today I wanted to talk to you guys about the challenges in microbiology lab, especially as they have been reflected into my population of students, but I'm thinking that many of you may have the same population of students as I have. So even though I'll be speaking specifically to my situation at University of North Carolina-Greensboro, I suspect that this is going to have a lot of overlap with some of the challenges that you're experiencing as well. A little bit about who I am and what I do here at UNC Greensboro. My degrees are in biology, but I also got teacher certification training because I wanted to teach biology, and I knew that when I was in graduate school. I've been teaching and coordinating the microbiology lecture and lab sections since 1982. So I've been here doing this for quite a long time, partially because I absolutely love it, and partially because there's definitely a learning curve to be able to teach microbiology, and it's not the sort of thing that someone can just jump into. I've also taught microbiology in several other professional programs, and it's definitely my field of expertise. Here at UNCG, we're a very unique school, I think, in that we are a part of a large state school system, but we're an intermediate-sized school. That means we have several PhD programs and active research labs that students can be involved with, but we also have small enough classes that students can have classes with teachers instead of just graduate students, and they can get to know professors really well. Our particular student population has a large percentage of first-generation college students and rural college students. We have the highest Pell Grant percentage of any school in our system, and we have the highest diversity of students of any school in our state. So we definitely have a big range of students, many of them students that don't have the sophistication and support outside of our university to help them in their academic endeavors. So we always have to be cognizant of this fact as we're working with our students. For my particular class, which is a sophomore level microbiology course, some of these students are nursing, about a third to a half, depending on the semester. But then the other students are pre-something, pre-pharmacy, pre-PA, pre-dental, and then some of them are nutrition majors. And that's the other major on campus, in addition to nursing, that requires their students to take our class. So very different reasons for taking this course. Some of them are freshmen, and that's typically our nursing students who would take this early on. But then our nutrition majors and our pre-professional students are often seniors or even post-backs. So a lot of diversity in terms of how many courses they've had under their belt. Some have had basically 2 science classes, only one of them having a lab, and then they jump straight into my course. Many of them have had a year, 2 years of upper level science coursework before they come into my class. So notice that I've got that diversity. I have to pitch it so that I'm catching everyone. I don't want to leave anyone feeling inadequate or unprepared. So I definitely have to do a lot of catch up with some of these students. The other thing I'm dealing with is this particular population of students compared to the ones I began teaching in 1982 are millennials. So they don't have the critical reading skills that we tended to see back in the 80s and 90s and even 2000s. And they also are much more likely to be visual learners. They are going to learn more from seeing something than from reading it or even hearing it spoken to them verbally. So definitely in many cases, they're going to learn in different ways, and they're going to expect different kinds of instruction because they learn in different ways. The other thing that I'm dealing with my class is because some of them don't have very much lab experience, some of them do not feel comfortable in the lab itself. It makes them feel very uneasy because they're worried about their safety in the lab because of not having other lab classes. So we spend a lot of time making sure that they're really ready for what they're doing when they walk in the door so that they feel comfortable and competent. The other things that I think are unique to any microbiology course, not just my population of microbiology student, is microbiology has lots of steps and procedures that must be followed precisely. And you have to keep all the steps in your head. And that sequencing is super important. And these guys don't always remember all of the steps exactly. They have to have a little bit of coordination and some physical skills to be able to manipulate materials with their various fingers at the same time. And that can often be a little bit of a challenge for some of these students. The angle of your wrist, your elbow, the spacing of the distance between your fingers, all of that is essential. And showing that is more important than telling it, and having students be able to see what you're demonstrating at the front of the room is often really not possible in a classroom of 24 students, which is how big our labs are. Some of these students have had piano or they've been keyboarding and they're great at using their fingers independently. Some of them are definitely not. So having them practice using their fingers independently is important. We have to worry in microbiology lab about more risks than some of the other labs have. For instance, they're working with live bacteria, so they have to handle them as if they were pathogens, even though, of course, we never give them pathogens to work with. They are working with open flames, as you can see in this image here. We are the only lab in our department that has open flames using Bunsen burners still. Everyone else has transitioned to other mechanisms or ways to avoid gas and open flames. We still have gas and open flames. We also have them working with sharp instruments. Sometimes I work with glass materials, which could be broken. So obviously a lot of safety procedures are going to have to be brought into place. And then finally, some of the chemicals that they are working with can be hazardous. We again try our very best to avoid that, but then we have special precautions that have to be put into place when they're working with the more hazardous chemicals. And from our lab manager and from an administrative point of view, the challenges represented in lab is that the materials from the cultures to the culture media, to the chemicals, to the dyes, to the microscopes. Materials are very expensive, time consuming to prepare, and also difficult to get repaired if there's any kind of damage or student ruining of materials or equipment. And so we always worry about that. We are, again, a state school. We are not private. We don't have unlimited money. So we're always worried about student mistakes. Not only are they endangering themselves, but they're endangering our ability to produce enough materials to supply that whole lab room, and that could be an issue. So those are our challenges that are unique to us. And again, some of these may also be very similar to the challenges that you guys are focusing. So we came up with a solution a while back. So to figure out how am I going to solve the fact that these students are so very diverse, we came up with a custom lab manual in which we are including the material that our students need to know. And we are including images and instructions that match our particular lab room, our staff, and even our equipment, the equipment that we have. As you can see from the image of our most recent version of the lab manual, we are in our 8th edition now. And we usually do a 3-year print run. So you can imagine how long we have been doing this joint venture with Hayden McNeil to create a custom lab manual that allows our students to use every single page in the lab manual that they have purchased and have no pages that they have to ignore in the lab manual that they have purchased. And every single page in that lab manual is accurate. We don't have to give them handouts or say, ignore item 6 on the set of instructions because our lab is not doing that. Students really like the idea that they're using every page of something that they spent money for, and they don't have to ignore things or keep track of handouts that are loose and sometimes get lost. And it really allows us to fine tune how we're presenting this so that we're meeting the needs of all of our students. And I love these 2 pictures showing you some of the diversity of our students. You're seeing Latino and African American, very common as our Asian students. And I don't know if you can see in this small left-hand picture, we have a student who was pregnant in that picture. And we also had a student with a diabetic alert dog in that very same lab room. It's a little bit out of the picture. And we had to have closed-toed shoes and safety goggles also for our diabetic alert dog. Also special precautions for pregnant students. We have a lot of adult students in our population, so this sometimes happens. Here's what that lab manual is like. We have in-depth explanations so that they can read an explanation before they come to lab, and they can always kind of catch up. And there's a lot of fill-in background information for those who don't have a lot of background. We set up our own labs that sometimes we created the labs, and that's great. What's great is that they are in the lab book. We have our equipment, we have pictures of our equipment, we have our setups. It's described exactly in the paperwork. And then we also perforated the pages so that our students can tear them out and we can take up pages. And we often do that and grade their pages, especially their questions at the end of the exercise. So this really lets us have a lab manual that does exactly what our students need. The other thing that we started doing recently is because we thought about that millennial mindset and the fact that they were visual learners, we started making a set of very short lab methods videos. And by very short, we're talking about 1.5 to 3 minutes lab methods videos, because a picture is worth 1,000 words, but a video is worth 10,000 words. So these are very short, easy to watch. They don't take a lot of time, but they definitely let students see what they're going to be doing before they walk in that day. So they watch the procedures, especially the trickiest ones, and they can watch them over and over again. There are zoom ins on these lab methods videos so that something that they wouldn't be able to see if I was demonstrating in the lab room unless I came right up to their station and demonstrated for every single student one-on-one, they wouldn't be able to see it this close. So the zooming in really lets them see close-ups of techniques that they couldn't see normally. Here you're going to see us making some of these videos, and you can see in this particular picture, Nathan is zooming in on our lab manager who was doing the demonstration of something in the sink trough. And you can see that he's zooming into the sink trough. Here you can see him zooming in on her drying bacterial slides. Doesn't sound very fancy, but knowing how to do it keeps students from breaking slides. And so you can see him here really zooming in on what she's doing. He worked with us and she did the demonstrations, and we have spent quite a bit of time working with this professional videographer provided to us by Hayden McNeil at no cost to ourselves to help us get quality professional videos, not quick, cheap, homemade videos. They are quality produced videos, including post-production. And I'll show you some of these guys in a little bit. You can watch them again over and over again, which for some students, they're like, I didn't see it that time. Can you do it again? They can watch them over and over and over again. It no longer matters that you weren't sitting at the front of the room, so you couldn't see a demonstration. And then the demonstration has voiceover for those who are visually impaired so they can hear what's going on. It has text closed captioning, so that's also going to help for those who are hearing impaired, so they can also follow along what's going on with them. So these are ADA compliant videos. And the other thing that's nice is if you have a less experienced lab instructor, for instance, I've got a grad student who will be teaching one of my labs next semester. If they haven't had a lot of training, they can watch these lab methods videos too, and it helps them feel more comfortable and confident. So we're also using it as a training method for new teachers of the lab course. We have a cadre of experienced teachers of the lab course, but we are always rotating through some new teachers, and this is nice to help train those new teachers to see the methods. Here's where they live. We have a Hayden McNeil website that is linked in our Canvas learning management system. And you guys may have a learning management system that is maybe Moodle or Sakai, or you may use Canvas or Blackboard. We have that, and it is linked easily right in with their assignments and also found in their modules. So here you can see the quick links so that once they have created their account the first time, they don't have a separate login. They're going to be clicking once and going straight into those lab methods videos from the learning management system. And the integration is something that I do very easily because it's a quick, easy integration to do. And my digital manager provides me with the data that I need to do that integration before the semester begins. The students will have a sticker on the inside of their lab manual. So they buy the paper lab manual, and then they've got a sticker on the inside of that paper lab manual that gives them the code to set up the initial access. Very quick, very easy. We rarely have any students have issues with this because if you buy a book, you've got the access code right there in the front. When we have students who repeat the class, which we sometimes do, Hayden McNeil is wonderful with us because they provide us with free codes for students who are repeating the class, so they don't have to buy a new lab manual to get a new access code. So how do I make sure they're watching the videos? Because these videos are great. We have more than 30 videos. How do I make sure they watch the videos? And we discussed this for quite a bit in our lab group. So here's our compromise between how do we force them, how do we encourage them, which of those two things do we want to do? Do we want to force them to watch the videos? Do we want to encourage them to watch the videos? Well, what we do is that there are quizzes on the videos that are a part of their grade. And it's a relatively small part of their grade, but these students are very motivated, at least ours in our class are, because they're taking these required classes and they're having a competitive application program that they're going to after our class typically. So they really want to improve their grades. So lab methods quizzes, yes, they're going to pay attention to them. They become available the Friday before their lab is meeting. So they've got plenty of time, including over the weekend and the earlier part of the week, to watch them. They are due 1 hour before their lab meeting. So we want them to have done them before they come to class. If they don't watch them, and we can see since they close an hour before, when I'm getting ready to walk into lab, I can just check quickly and see who didn't do the lab quiz. Whoever didn't do the lab quiz has to go into the adjacent room to watch the videos quickly before they get to do their work, but they don't get to turn in the quiz. So most of our students are absolutely turning in the quiz, and we're using that carrot rather than the stick. I guess the stick would be that they have to go watch it in the adjacent room if they don't watch it ahead of time, but that's not much of a stick because they still listen to the pre-lab and then go watch the video and then come back and do the lab with their normal group. We have recently been allowing them to retake those quizzes as many times as they want until they can get a perfect score. Because first we were thinking we want them to focus hard on doing well on the quizzes. And then we started thinking we just want them to understand the concepts that they were supposed to get from the videos. So we now let them take those quizzes multiple times until they get the right answers. So if they try hard, everybody gets 100% on that part of their lab grade, which they're happy about and we're happy about because, again, we don't want to be punitive. We just want them to watch the videos and learn what they're supposed to from them. So the quizzes, how do we do the quizzes? That's kind of an interesting one. It turns out that we don't have to do very much at all. The Hayden McNeil digital experts do almost all of it. I created quiz questions and answers, and I set that up as an assignment in my Canvas course. And then I tell them what I want the opening dates and then the due dates and times for all the quizzes to be, and they actually put those all in for me. For all 8 or 12 lab sections, which have different closing times and days, they do them all for me. And so I really like that because I don't have to do a lot of work. I just give them the dates and the times. I give them the questions and the answers. They do all the magic behind the scenes. All I have to do is a grade sync. And the cool thing about the system is that I do, if there's 8 lab sections, it doesn't matter. I go in as the coordinator. I do a one-click grade sync, and all 8 sections or 12 sections get grade synced at once. Okay, so it's a wonderful, easy thing for me to do to integrate those grades into their grade book so they always know what their average is. There is no work for my individual lab instructors to do, either to set up those quizzes or to grade them or to integrate them, which makes my lab instructors very happy, and I definitely want my lab instructors to be happy. I want to take a break from presenting right now and show you some of these little videos and quizzes so you can see what these look like. So I am going to go over and show you what these look like. This is my Hayden McNeil course, and you can see that it's set up, but it's unique for me. It's UNCG Microbio Fall 2021. So you can see this is the course that we're in now. That's our own lab picture that we created there. It's a front piece. We have ebook and fillable PDFs as alternatives to the paper book. And so you'll notice that those are up at the tip top. And then everything else that you see here, if you click the arrow, has a video with a quiz following it. The quizzes open and close at particular dates, but the videos are open all the time so that students can go back and watch the videos at any time. I'm going to click into one of these to let you see how they start, and then click into a couple more so that you can see particular features. So they will start, and I'm going to show you, I'm not going to do it full screen, but I want you to notice that there is a full screen option. Notice that that had a featured logo from our university, which is really nice.
When bacteria grow in microbiological culture media, the appearance of the growth can be used to gather important clues about the species, which can be helpful in the identification of the organisms.
Okay, so I'm going to stop there a minute and just let you know that I typed up the script and a professional talent actor was hired to do the voice. I could have done my voice, but I don't like to hear my voice on recordings. So they asked if I would like to do it, and I asked for them to hire talent to do that. So that is not me. That is a voice talent that was hired to do that. And notice again, it is both written and oral so that anyone can follow along. And if I click a little further along on this video, just in the interest of time.
The 3 main types of culture medium used in the microbiology lab are petri dishes, slants, and broths. The following are colony characteristics which may be recorded.
Notice this is a page from our lab manual that we've got in here. So that's exactly what they're seeing in their lab book.
Look at colonies which are isolated far away from all other colonies, as crowding and thus competition for nutrients can make colonies uncharacteristically small. You may use terms such as small, large, tiny, and so on, or pinpoint, pinhead, pencil eraser size to describe the colony size.
And again, these are our Petri dishes that we provided that were videoed. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit so you can see how they really zoom in on some of these. And I want you to see, notice this is not something I could have demonstrated to the students in the lab room. The idea that for elevation, you have to look from the side and see how the colony is standing up. Notice that they've got
eye level and note how much the colonies are raised from the medium. Common descriptions include flat, mounded, or fried egg.
Again, notice that this is post-production. Now they took the videos that they made and then they added in the little insert and then the words. I'm going to go up here to show you another one to show you some of the other post-production that they did. Here you're looking at culture transfer, and I'm partway through the video, but I wanted to click and show you a couple of nuances.
First, the old tube that you are transferring from should be held in the non-dominant hand between the ring finger and middle finger. The new tube that you are transferring to is held in the same hand between the middle and pointer finger. This allows the transfer to move bacteria away from the body during the transfer. The slant surface should face towards you. There should be space between the two tubes as they rest against the fingers and are held in place by the thumb. With the palm of the hand turned facing up, the wrist is angled slightly towards the body, and the tubes are held at a 45-degree angle to the lab bench. Before beginning the subculture,
I'm going to stop there and go back to my presentation, but I wanted you guys just to see what those videos look like and see how professionally they ended up, considering that was my lab manager who was acting all the parts and me standing off screen giving her instructions for what to do. It is interesting that in some of the videos, if you look closely, you can read her lips saying, "I know, Robin, I know." So here were my outcomes when I put these into place. What I expected was that my pre-labs are going to be shorter because I don't have to demonstrate or explain so much, and therefore the students have more time to do the lab work. That absolutely occurred. Oh, sorry about that. I also anticipated fewer people would be sitting there waiting with their hands up to be told what to do, and there would be less wasted time. Also absolutely true. There were fewer mistakes because, again, students knew the pitfalls and they knew exactly how to do things right. So we didn't waste as much media, we didn't have as many breakages, and we didn't have as much spillage. Absolutely still occurred. What I didn't expect was that students actually really liked the videos. We were afraid they would think of them as an onerous duty to do, but they actually loved them. So they would show up ready to go and often quite eager. They would often correct one another. So there wasn't as much issue with me having to run around and correct people who are doing things wrong, because they would say, "Oh, no, remember you have to do this. Remember in the video?" And so they felt very much like they were a team and they helped one another and they weren't dependent on me to try to answer every single question. They would answer each other's questions, which was great. They felt a lot of pride. Our students enjoyed being microbiologists rather than just studying microbiology. And that's what they told me that they felt like, because they walked into lab feeling confident about what they were doing. The pictures you're seeing here are not staged. The admissions office heard about our class and how much fun it was. So they sent photographers who were actually standing on top of the lab benches, taking pictures of our students during lab. And these are all candids where the students were ignoring them and having fun during lab, believe it or not. And again, I had fewer questions from students about the techniques, and that meant we had more time to discuss the concepts or connections between what we're learning in lab and lecture. And I had no idea, just watching the videos and preparing would do that. The last thing I want to mention is that because of these videos, when we had to pivot to completely online instruction for our labs, we were way better off than most people because we already had all of those videos showing the methods. But then as soon as we went online, and I'm going to say within a week, the people at Hayden McNeil converted every single page that was fillable. So every page that had a data sheet, like you're seeing here in the image to the right, or questions to be answered, they converted every single one of those to fillable PDFs. And then they also had an entire ebook where students could read the entire book, all of the explanations and everything. Because when we had semesters that we were completely online, the students did not purchase a paper lab manual at all. They used the ebook option. And even now, if students are in face-to-face learning again, which they are, they like having the ebook in case they don't have their book with them and they want to read something in the lab book. That conversion happened, like I said, within a week, which amazed me that they did that so quickly for us. The other thing that we had is that our lab room had Panopto in it, which is a way to use cameras throughout the room that are recorded. And our lab manager, who was no longer preparing cultures and media for actual labs, wanted to come up with her own contribution. And her name is Laura. So she came up with these live Friday sessions for the students to log into that she called Live Labs with Laura, or L3. And the students would tell her what to do. And she would ask them, what do I do next? What would you like me to sample? Do you want to test this? Do you want to test that? And they were really awesome. She would look at things through the microscope and they could see that. She would do things in the lab room with slides. She would demonstrate with Petri dishes. And these were really popular. The students loved them because they could come in and really feel like they were doing live work, even though it wasn't them doing it, because they could tell Laura what to do and they could answer Laura's questions live. And she loved it because as a lab manager, she was twiddling her thumbs otherwise, but this gave her a way to continue to interact with the students, which she loved. So finally, as I end, looks like I'm ending 2 minutes early, which is exactly what I wanted to do. I just want to say that there's no way I could have followed my vision of having lab methods videos without my Hayden McNeil lab manual editor saying, is there anything else that we can do for you? And I said, well, I would love if I could make videos, but I don't know how to do that. And he said, we can do that for you. We'll send a team down to meet with you and we will make the videos and then process them for you. I had no idea that they would do that for free for my students. The money to pay for that was a very small surcharge on the lab manual. We're talking about like less than $1 on each lab manual in order to pay for them to come down and do that, which was awesome. My students love the class and they love feeling more empowered in the lab room. And you are seeing an unsolicited student endorsement in the picture over there to the left. These were students working on their unknown organism, and they wrote in bacteria, I heart Bio 280. I took a picture of it because I thought, oh, I'm so glad you love Bio 280. I love Bio 280 too. And I love my students in Bio 280. And I'm just really happy that I have a team that works with me, works for me, is a collaborator, and really helps me not just come up with ideas, but take my ideas through to fruition. And I have just been so blessed that this has worked for us and that our students appreciate it and often reflect our class, which is often, it's one of the hardest classes they have to take, was their favorite class ever during their college career.